Learn how to crochet this easy, dreamy scarf crochet pattern. It's a beautiful, stylish, and cozy winter scarf crochet pattern that is made with a simple one-stitch repeat. It's the same stitch used in my charming no-holes baby blanket, and I think it's also perfect for a crochet winter scarf.
Hello from Halifax. I'm Jo with Jo the World Creations.
We're going to be getting right to the video tutorial. All the details such as the hook size, the yarn weight, the amount of yarn required, they are all included in the free pattern, which is available on my website. And there's a link to that right below this video. We're going to start by making a slip knot. Place your slip knot on your hook and pull tight. Now we're going to chain 18. I'm using a different size for yarn than what's listed in the pattern, just so it's easier for you to see. You go ahead and make 18 starting chains and come back to the video. With our 18 chains now made, we're going to begin row 1. For all of row 1 only, we are going to work into the back ridge loops. These are these bumps along the back. We're going to start by working into the second chain from the hook. Here's the first, here's the second. Rotate your chain so you can see the back. Here's the first back ridge loop, and here's the second, the one we're going to work into. Insert your hook into that second back ridge loop, and then we're going to single crochet. Working in the second chain from the hook, rotate your work, insert your hook into that second back ridge loop, and single crochet. Now we're going to single crochet in each back ridge loop all the way across. Working in the next back bump, insert your hook and single crochet. Make one single crochet stitch in each back ridge loop of each chain all the way across, and then come back to the video. I'm almost finished working all the way across. Nothing special happens. I have 2 more chains to work into. Still working into these back ridge loops, single crochet, and in the last chain, single crochet. At the end of row 1, you should have 17 single crochet stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. To start row 2, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn. We're going to start by working in the first stitch. This is the stitch that's attached to that chain 1 we just made. Into this first stitch, we're going to make a V-stitch. A V-stitch in this pattern is doing the following 3 things all in the same stitch. First thing we're going to do is single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1 and still working into this first stitch, double crochet. There's our first V-stitch. Now we're going to begin the repeat portion of the row, which is what we're going to be repeating all the way across. The first step in our repeat is to skip the next stitch. We're not going to work into the next stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to make another V-stitch. Skip the next stitch. In the next stitch, make a V-stitch. Single crochet, chain 1, and in the same stitch, double crochet. These are the steps we're going to repeat all across the row. Skip the next stitch. In the next stitch, single crochet, chain 1, and in the same stitch, double crochet. You go ahead and repeat these steps all the way across. Skip the next stitch. In the next stitch, V-stitch, which is a single crochet, chain one, and a double crochet in the same stitch. I'm almost finished working all the way across. As you can see, my work is curling. That's absolutely okay. It will straighten out as you make more rows. It may take several more rows before it straightens out, but it will straighten out. So don't be alarmed if your work looks like this. Nothing special happens at the end of the row, but let's do it together. Right now I have 4 stitches left. Still following the same instructions, skip the next stitch. In the next stitch, make a V-stitch, single crochet, chain one, and double crochet. I now have 2 stitches left. Skip the next stitch, and in the last stitch, make a V-stitch. Single crochet, chain one, and double crochet still in the last stitch. At the end of this row, you should have 9 V-stitches completed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we're going to start row 3, which is what we're going to be repeating for the rest of the scarf. We're going to chain 1 and turn. For the rest of the pattern, from now on, we are only going to work in chain 1 spaces. And I'm going to show you exactly where those spaces are in just a second. But I wanted to point out we are not working into the tops of stitches from now on. We're only going to be working into chain 1 spaces all the way across the row. We're going to start by working into the first chain 1 space. This is the space between this double crochet stitch and the single crochet stitch and under the chain 1 from the previous row. We'll be working right under this chain 1 and in between these 2 stitches to make our first V-stitch. We won't be working into the tops, we'll be going right into this first chain 1 space. If you have any trouble finding this space, you can always pull your work apart a little bit, spread out those stitches, and you can see that there's a space right below the chain 1. Working into this space, make a V-stitch, single crochet, chain 1, and in the same first chain 1 space, make a double crochet stitch. We are now going to make a V-stitch in each chain 1 space all the way across. Our next chain 1 space is between this double crochet stitch and the single crochet stitch under this chain 1. We are going to make a V-stitch in this next chain 1 space. In this space, single crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. In the next chain 1 space, here's the double crochet and single crochet under the chain 1. Into this next chain 1 space, make a V-stitch. If you're having any trouble finding those chain 1 spaces, you can simply just stretch your work a little bit and look for the place where there's a double crochet stitch and a single crochet stitch with a chain 1 over top. And that's where you make your V-stitch. In the next chain 1 space, V-stitch, in the next chain 1 space, V-stitch, and that's all we do for the entire row. We just make a V-stitch in each chain 1 space all the way across. I have 2 more chain 1 spaces to work into. In my second last chain 1 space, V-stitch, and in my last chain 1 space, V-stitch. At the end of this row, which is what you'll be repeating for the rest of the scarf, and each row has the same number of stitches, you should have 9 V-stitches made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For row 4 and on, you're going to repeat row 3. Let's do it one more time together. To start, we chain 1 and turn. In the first chain 1 space, we'll make our first V-stitch. And now we're going to make a V-stitch in each chain 1 space all the way across. I'll do one more, working into this chain 1 space, V-stitch. And you do this all the way across the row. I'm almost finished doing that all the way across. I have one last chain 1 space to work into, and in this last chain 1 space, make a V-stitch. As you can see, my work is starting to straighten out. It's not as curved, but it may take a few more rows for it to turn straight. You go ahead and repeat row 3 until the length of your scarf is approximately 68 inches high, or your desired length. You can end after any row. Just like it takes several rows for the scarf to straighten out, I also recommend waiting to measure the width of your scarf for several more rows. It took my scarf several rows for it to be the width that it remained for the rest of the scarf. So make a few more rows, and if you're not happy with the width of the scarf, you can either start again with a different hook size, or you can start again with a different number of starting chains. And instructions for how to adjust the size are included in the written pattern. I've just repeated row 3 a few more times, and now my scarf is much straighter. As I mentioned, you can end after any row. The scarf is completely reversible and looks the same on both sides. I'm going to pretend that this is my desired length or height for my scarf. So at this point, I can now fasten off, which means to cut the yarn that's attached to your skein and pull the end through the loop that was on your hook and pull tight. Now with a yarn needle, weave in all your loose ends. Now let's add tassels to our scarf. Each tassel is made with 4 strands of yarn, and each strand is approximately 16 inches long. You will need 72 strands of yarn. To help you cut these strands, find an object like a notebook or a piece of cardboard that is 8 inches long. This notebook is 8 inches long, and wrap your yarn around that object either 72 times, or you can do it in smaller amounts until you have 72 strands of yarn. And simply cut the yarn in the middle, and that will help you cut your strands of yarn. Since the scarf is reversible, it doesn't matter if the front or the back is facing you. Just ensure that it's the same for adding the tassels to the top and the bottom. I attached 9 tassels to the bottom. I attached these 9 tassels into the single crochet stitches we made in row 1, and only into the single crochet stitches where we made a V-stitch. Here's my first single crochet stitch with a V-stitch into it. You can see the double crochet and single crochet, so I attached a tassel here. The next place I placed a tassel is a single crochet stitch where there's a V-stitch into it. So I'm attached my tassels into these 9 single crochet stitches along the bottom that had V-stitches in them. Let's attach our first tassel to this first single crochet stitch with the V-stitch in it. Have whatever side you want as the front of your scarf to be facing you. Insert your hook into that stitch from the back to the front. Take 4 strands of yarn and place them on your hook. Pull them through the stitch. You've now created a loop with your fingers. Insert your fingers into that loop and pull the ends through the loop. Pull the ends tight to form a knot and then pull tight. You can repeat that step for each tassel along the bottom. For the top, which was the end of the scarf, the last row you completed when making the scarf, I attached my tassels to each chain 1 space. And since we had 9 chain 1 spaces or 9 V-stitches, I had 9 tassels across the top. There was my 8th and then 9th. You follow the same steps for attaching the tassels to the top. Insert your hook from the front to the back into that chain 1 space. Take 4 strands of yarn and place them on your hook. Pull them through that space to form a loop. With your fingers, grab the ends and pull them through the loop. And then pull tight to form a knot. And repeat that step for each tassel across the top. Once you have all your tassels attached, the last step is to trim the ends to make them all one length. I cut mine so they were all 6 inches long. I have another tutorial showing how to cut the ends perfectly when making fringe or tassels, and I'll link to that in the description below this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy making this scarf. If you have any questions or if there's anything at all I can do to help, please let me know. If you like this video, I would be delighted if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.